while back, myself and Corey from the Aquarium Co-op were so lucky to be able to travel to Interzoo in Germany. Now, it was a lot of travel to get out there, but one of the reasons that made this whole venture worthwhile was being able to go meet the guy, the man, the myth, the legend that we'd heard about so many times. We heard about a fella in Germany that had been breeding the Schkutterdentei. I'm obviously saying that wrong, and I normally refer to them as the Scoot and Fruity Puffers. But he had bred those puffers. He was always just kind of a mythological dude that people talked about, like, yeah, there's a guy in Germany that has done it. This is his house. We were lucky enough to have met Andy, who was gracious enough to go, yeah, I know who the guy is. Let me call him. I've got a car. I can drive you guys out there. He met all the criteria of somebody that was going to do something, you know what I mean? Like, he was able to drive us out there. He knew where we were going, all that kind of awesome stuff. He was a fantastic host. Definitely hooked us up. We were able to go to Marco's place, who, you know, by what was really going on here is that he had just moved here. And, you know, my initial impressions from going to his apartment, I was like, oh, wow, this is like all your stuff. This is awesome, actually, you know. And he goes, no, this is only like 20% of the stuff that he has. So he had Maboo puffers, he had hairy puffers, he had spot puffers, he had as I refer to as the Scoot and Fruity puffers. He had all sorts of puffers, breeding projects. We learned so much from him. We actually got to sit down and check out one of his presentations. So it was actually just Corey and myself watching and him giving his presentation on, micro-infusoria and all of the really cool things that you really need to do in order to breed a lot of puffers. It's obviously not necessary for all puffers, but we definitely learned a lot from him. It definitely was a humbling moment to go like, man, this guy is so deep into the puffers. I just kind of feel like an idiot right now when I was talking with him, but it's one of his main focuses. It's one of the main things that he does all of the time. And I have to admit, it was very impressive to see some of his puffer projects, and to see somebody who's really, really focused on, one species of fish, and just how far you can get into it with making sure that it's habitable for them and all of the things that they need. Moving around his modest amount of space that he has dedicated, you realize just how many projects this guy can get into one space. He basically has a rack of 6 tanks with those little tiny, I don't even know if I would refer to them as nano tanks. They're almost smaller than a nano tank. They're like a micro tank down below. And most of these tanks are only, I believe, about like 25 to 28 gallons. So they really are not that big. He's got a lot of schools of puffers in each tank. One of the big things that he was pointing out is that you're able to keep down aggression if you're able to house them in an area where they're interacting with each other a lot, and you actually definitely have a lot better opportunity for the actual breeding process. One of the things that I definitely took away from being able to meet this guy and being able to go here and check out some of this stuff, there were some inclinations of maybe I should get some puffers and start doing some puffer breeding projects and stuff. And I realized that I've got quite a bit more to learn if I am going to go down that route. If I am going to go that way, I'm going to definitely have to take some time to learn a lot more, and get more prepared if I am going to go that route. So it's definitely gave me a great opportunity to kind of consider some of the things that need to go into it and what I need to do in order to get ready for something like that, which means I'm going to go ahead and put that project off out into the horizon and not worry about it so much. Here's some of the nano tanks down here underneath. I didn't get a ton of footage of them. I do have to admit I have some regret of not getting just the maximum amount of footage, even though I do have quite a bit. I wouldn't say that I got the maximum amount of footage of every little thing. His house was not set up for like filming, as most people's houses aren't, and he doesn't necessarily have a dedicated fish room. His actual breeding projects and all that kind of stuff are inhabited in his living space, which I find to be quite refreshing in comparison to my setup, because my setup here, I have my fish room that is a separate place, and I'm not necessarily around it all the time. There's an upside to the way I do it. There's an upside to the way that he does it. The way I was looking at it is that he's just much more in touch with his fish on a regular basis. And, oftentimes most of my tanks are filled with shrimp and stuff like that. They don't need constant attention. But I would have to admit that a lot of these puffers definitely need constant attention. I guess from what I was told, he's got a bunch of bigger tanks and bigger projects and stuff that he just hadn't moved here yet. He was a little bit reticent to have us into his house because he felt like, he didn't have enough stuff there to be able to show us and everything. But I do have to admit, if I ever get the chance to go back, I'm definitely going to go back because I want to see all of the other stuff that he's got too. Because, in his words, he was like, I've only moved a little bit of the stuff. I've got so much more to move. And, he was just considering it to be a bad timeline situation with, him not having everything there to be able to show us everything that he was doing. But I was pretty transfixed by it. A very intelligent guy, and definitely brought a lot of cool stuff out for us to check out. As I mentioned earlier, he had a whole presentation too, so that was fantastic. And I just a very, very big thank you and a very fantastic, humbling moment to just kind of realize, like, oh man, if I'm gonna get into this, I got a long way to go. introduce yourself real quick to me so I can remember who you are.
Okay, I'm Marco. I'm 25 years old, and I'm a puff and burrito.
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on, Marco? Tell me. I've just had fish. Stop. I love German.